Michael Vick is back with us. Mike, what's the bigger story here? Russ turned that ball over 4 times or Josh Allen torching that Seattle defense?
Russell turning the ball over 4 times, and Russ will tell you this morning, you can't win games if you turn the ball over, regardless of how it happened. You know, the chances of you winning the game just go way, way down. And on the defensive side of the ball, I'm just disappointed in the Seattle Seahawks, knowing that Russ was cooking, knowing that Russ needed help. And this was the time to step up. I looked at this game as a challenge for the Seahawks, going on the road, playing against a good team that's just as good on both sides of the ball, and going to make it super competitive. And they let their team down. They let the offense down. They let the entire team down. I thought Jamal Adams coming back was going to be a great fill-in, and Dunlap being inserted into the lineup. But it was the exact opposite. And got to give credit to the Buffalo Bills. They capitalized on all the turnovers. Josh Allen, you know, he played a phenomenal game. So they put it all together when they needed it the most. And, you know, this is a game that the Seattle Seahawks will learn a lot from. You know, it's a character-building game. They learn a lot about themselves after a game like this, and they got to come back strong.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with you. To me, this comes down to Russell Wilson and his struggles. Josh Allen, wow. I mean, where was this guy the last 4 weeks? One of the things that I get hit up all the time on social media is, Brandon, why do you defend quarterbacks so much? It's because I don't just talk about the interception. I want to talk about the why behind the interceptions. So when you look at Russ, he had a bad game. You go back to the Arizona game. I don't think he had a bad game. I think he had 3 bad plays. This time around, he had a bad game. Those picks were bad. It was him pressing. It was him cooking too much, Jenna. But when you look at the why behind it, to me, it's the protection. He was hit 11 times. So when I look at their offense and why they struggle at certain times throughout that game, it really was because Russ and Shoddy didn't do a great job of protecting Russ. They didn't do it. Russ is one of the quarterbacks that's so involved in making sure that he's a part of the game plan with the offensive line, the offensive coordinator when it comes to protection. He, as all quarterbacks point out the mic, but he's also getting his guys in position. That is Russ doing that. When you see Russ get hit 11 times, you see free hitters coming, and he can't even get into his rhythm. He can't step up in the pocket. He can't escape. That is an issue, and that's more alarming than the interceptions, is why aren't you guys handling the fundamentals? So, Nick, Russ, to me, just opened up the floodgates for so many other people to enter in this discussion of who is the real MVP. Yep. I still have him there because when you look at 2018 and Mahomes had 15 touchdowns, 12 picks. Well, 50. He hasn't exceeded that, so we're still good. We're still good.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's pacing in the wrong direction. Russ has 7 turnovers in the last 3 weeks. On the season, only Wentz, Cousins, and Daniel Jones have more interceptions than Russell Wilson. That ain't great. Now, I know Bills Mafia is saying, really? We're not going to get any credit? Josh Allen's not going to get any credit? And the answer is no, you're not, because you were playing Madden on rookie mode. That's the Seattle defense. I'm not going to give you any credit because you're playing a team that every single quarterback has annihilated. And Wilds, you were early on this, and I want to give you credit. This Seattle team is half a team, as you put it.
That's right.
And now that you look at halfway through the year, you're like, well, they were a yard away from losing to New England. They needed a 4th down conversion to beat Dallas. They needed a million things to go right in the final minute to beat Minnesota. Wilds, those 3 teams are 7-17, which speaks to the fact that the defense is so bad that even when Russ plays well, because Russ played well in those 3 games, anybody can hang with them, which to me is wildly concerning if I were a Seahawk fan, Wilds.
That's right. They're going to get into the playoffs and lose immediately because we know the blueprint how to beat this team. And Brandon, I know you're banging on Russ. This wasn't Tampa Bay. They lost the game 34-44. And granted, Russ put them in some bad field position to make it easy on Josh Allen. But this wasn't a shutout. This wasn't 38-3. He scored 34 points. It's like, hey, guys, we had a chance to win this game. But Pete Carroll had the most mind-boggling, on the verge of funny quote. He said, hey, these guys didn't even try to run the football today. What gives? We didn't expect that to happen. We didn't think they totally abandoned the running game. We had a nice plan.
Coach.
They were going to run it.
Really, Coach.
We have to be able to adapt. Brandon, I have no idea why Pete Carroll thinks this when they give up the most yards through the air in NFL history. So I thought this was a very bizarre quote. To his credit, we've only done about 20 hours on this subject, and the show comes on at 4:30 in the morning in Seattle. I don't expect him to get up that early, but if you want to DVR us, we're right there banging on your defense, Pete Carroll, so pay attention.
Well, Wiles, I thought the same thing. When I saw this quote, I think it was Pro Football Talk, I was like, what is Pete Carroll doing? This is Pete, being too honest. But then the more I dove into it, I said it makes sense. Because when you look at how they're built, right? Defensively, they can't stop anyone. So you got to be great at one thing. So they went in saying, let's just stop the run and let's let Josh Allen, who's been struggling, Mike, for the past few weeks at an alarming rate, let's let him come in here and try to beat us. We at least have a chance there. They stopped the run, but then Josh Allen actually showed up. I mean, it's not like Josh Allen was struggling where, he threw a few bad balls, he threw some picks, he turned the ball. Josh Allen couldn't hit a 5-yard out cut. He was throwing 15 yards on a 10-yard in cut. Like, this dude was off the mark, way off. So, Mike, I think Pete Carroll was on to something. It just didn't go the way he planned on Sunday.
Hey, Coach Carroll, no, this is the NFL. And, Coach, anything can happen. You can't come in and expect them to just run it or to just be, all in on the pass. You got to expect a little bit of everything, Coach. That's why you game plan. You're one of the best. You got a Super Bowl under your belt, Coach, but don't be one-side biased. You're a defensive mind. Open up and expand it. You know what's coming at you. You know what you're going to get. Be ready. I got a lot of respect for Pete Carroll, and this will certainly be a learning experience for him because they don't want to run into another firestorm like this.
All right, time now for Put a Grade on It. Tua and Kyler had themselves an old-fashioned Wild West shootout yesterday out in the desert. Tua's Fins coming out on top. Rookie threw for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was a fun one to watch. Mike, put a grade on Tua's second career start.
I give him an 8. It's tough conditions. On the road, all eyes was on Tua this game, and he knew it. And, with everything that was surrounding him and all the speculation, the 10-game audition, this, that, and the third, he did exactly what he needed to do. I give him an 8 just for playing with confidence and, really showing that he's worth the pick. And Miami made a good decision. It's good for him to make the Miami Dolphins look good right now.
A-, Mike, and he played really well. And then I think because of COVID, he had like 6 of his offensive coaches in the booth and not beside him. So he only had Ryan Fitzpatrick to lean on. So for that reason, I give him an A-. But the reason why I couldn't give him an A and an A+ is because, man, you got to get the ball out quicker. And these are things that he'll learn over time. But this dude has everything it takes to be really good. But I just don't want to see him take these sacks that he shouldn't have to when he can just throw the ball out. So A-.
All right, so Vick gave him an A. Brandon gave him an A-. I'm going to bring his grade back up. A++. He outdueled Kyler. Kyler was brilliant. He was extraordinary in the first start where he actually had to do real work. Last week's game, the defense won it for him. And all y'all laughed at me last week when I said Miami has the best quarterback in the AFC East. Wilds, Miami has the best quarterback in the AFC East. And based on the 2020 season alone, they might have the best coach in the AFC East, too. I'm just saying, Brian Flores, put some respect on the man's name.
I like Brian Flores.
Patriots, old and busted. Tua and the Dolphins, new and hot.
It's not a bad take.
Okay.
Not a bad take.
Former Patriot, once a Patriot, always a Patriot. I'm allowed to root for Brian Flores. I give Tua an F because I needed the Dolphins to lose and I needed the Seahawks to beat the Bills to have any chance of the Patriots making the playoffs. Tua plays great, and as a punishment, F.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.